This is a video about how to use your mind and your intuition to guide your eating and your diet. A lot of people get very lost in their head and their theories, and just to jump into it, an example would be reading about Solanacea nightshades and deciding that nightshades are bad, and then cutting out tomatoes from your diet, as well as peppers. But I think ultimately we need to be using both our intuition and our mind to guide our eating choices. So you can use your mind to understand that that could potentially be an issue. You can use your mind to understand that maybe you do need a certain type of ratio of macronutrients. But personally, I've never counted macronutrients or counted calories. And every time I do cut out some food group and decide to reintroduce it, I always use my intuition, how it makes my body feel, to decide if introducing it back in was effective, if it is something that I need to cut out. So a lot of people get very lost in their head, and the problem with this is there's just so much theory out there. Every single food group can be demonized from a certain perspective. If you just go in your head and you're trying to eliminate all the bad things and just get the best foods, it's completely relative. The amount of information out there is pretty much infinite. You're going to have to construct some model, and the model is could be completely different just based on what path you go down, what different ideological preferences you have, and things like this. And next thing you know, you have this whole massive complicated model of what's good for you, and you're not actually in touch with how it makes you feel. Biochemical individuality is a massive thing. Some people with ancestors from more tropical regions are genuinely adapted to eating a bunch of fruit throughout the year. Some people from very north regions are genuinely adapted to the carnivore diet, to eating nose to tail and getting all the nutrients there. That's not to say that it's completely limited to that. There's so many factors that go into biochemical individuality. Some people are super sensitive to nightshades, Solanacea, and when they cut them out and reintroduce them back in, but are staying in touch with their body, they're going to notice a massive shift, a massive difference. Whereas some people are very resilient. Some people can handle that just fine, and they're going to feel great when they cut it out and then reintroduce it back in. The exact same thing goes for gluten, for a bunch of different things, pretty much everything that people sometimes demonize. So don't get lost in your head. Use your sense of feeling in your body. And I think the way to do this is mindfulness, meditation, vipassana, being in touch with your body, and using elimination diets, and then reintroducing things back in. So you're using your mind. You say, maybe this thing could be an issue. Let me see how I feel. And of course, at the end of the day, there are a lot of things that you can't determine how healthy it is just based on how you feel. A lot of things have impacts on us that we can't immediately feel, but for the most part, one way or another, the more you get in touch with your body, there's going to be some kind of reaction, some kind of thing that you feel. If your body's not processing something well, you're going to be able to tell, and that's something that you can build a relationship, get more in touch with. So back to the example of, macronutrients. I can feel when I've had too much fat and I need more protein or carbohydrates. I can feel when I haven't had enough protein. I can feel when I need some carbohydrates. And then I just go to foods based on that. I never count my protein, even when I'm trying to build muscle. I just can tell how much is enough. And the more you get in touch with that, the more you build that muscle, the more you get in touch with how your body feels after specific foods, and just paying attention to it, you're going to build this relationship over time, and that's the most valuable thing. And then you can combine that with your web of knowledge. It will help you build a more accurate web of knowledge, because knowledge is this extremely relative, hard to navigate thing. Like I said, everything is completely relative. There's an infinite amount of information out there. There is no such thing as some objective, healthy thing. It's all going to be subjective, and whatever path you go down in constructing some model is just going to be completely dependent on the context, your ideological preferences, what information you find, what information feels good. And the mind is such a tricky thing when it comes to things like this, and it's very easy to get lost in your mind. You see some people who go raw vegan, and then they go carnivore after they don't feel good doing that, because they were so stuck in their ideology, that they were so certain about a diet, and they probably still are, that they weren't even in touch with how it made them feel. And it took them a long time to realize they don't feel good, and then they switched to the other ideology. Whereas if they had thrown out that ideology and just slowly tested how they feel, they wouldn't have had these drastic shifts. So it's really interesting that people get so ideological about the food they eat. And I think really the root source of that problem is a lack of being in touch with your intuition and your feeling and your body.